affine map is the inverse of the linear part of F. That is what we want to prove right now.
Now, sir, like if capital F is the codomain of small f. Now, my question is, if my p dash belongs to f minus image of small f, then
It
what
is a
happens?
bijective map. Why are you talking about that? It is a bijective map. So image is everybody, no?
No, sir. Oh, f is bijective. Okay,
Yeah,
sir.
I think what
Sorry,
I
sir.
was saying that read the
Sorry, sir.
statement carefully first.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, I thought if not.
Otherwise the proof is okay, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir. I
Okay.
thought it if not is bijective that.
So it is. How do you find, Arnab, these affine spaces?
Sir, I am finding it is like a very generalized thing.
It is. Let me tell you, it is not very generalized thing. We have put it in a very formal way, and the constructions we are doing in the school or college, that was not using linear algebra. Now I am only using linear algebra with that. And the action, that it is simple transitive. That is the whole point of these affine spaces and affine maps. Yes, anybody else has any question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please. Who is it?
Sir, Tithi.
Tithi, tell me, where are you from, Tithi?
Sir, I'm from West Bengal and I'm doing my PhD from IIT Guwahati.
Oh, very good. Tell me, what is your difficulty?
Sir, lecture 5, page number 13.
Lecture 5, page number
13, sir. Sir,
yes.
Sir, yeah, here it is written that in particular G automorphism of G spaces G are the right multiplication and that given that map. Sir, how this line comes, I don't understand.
All right. See, what did we prove earlier? See, whenever I wrote in particular something, that should follow immediately from the earlier statement. That is always what I do. Now, what did we prove earlier? What is just line we proved earlier? Automorphisms, G automorphisms of XH equal to the opposite group of G by H. Opposite group, right?
Yes.
All right. Now here, what am I doing? I'm taking G as a G space.
Yes.
That means which is the operation?
Left multiplication.
Very good. And we know from earlier thing that what is the automorphism group of G as a G space over G? Now H is trivial.
Yes, sir.
And therefore it will be G opposite.
Okay.
And therefore that left multiplication will become a right multiplication.
Okay, sir.
That is what it is written here. G automorphisms of the G flat G are the right multiplications rho G naught from G to G. G going to multiply G naught on the right.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Isn't it a very particular case of this above isomorphism?
Yes, sir. Yes.
H is normal, H is in fact H is trivial and therefore normal and so on.
Okay, sir.
All right. Do you find these notes easier to read or do you find it difficult?
No, sir, it's okay. I have studied that and understood.
Okay, what about later lectures?
Sir, I have also studied that, but the last lecture I was not there.
Okay.
So, can you, sir, please briefly tell the definition of semi-direct product? Briefly.
That will take a lot of time for me now because we are already running late the schedule. So I think you can read it. It is very, which is that lecture number 7, no?
Yes, sir.
So that is very self-explanatory there. So you don't worry, it is there. And also it might be also in the assignment sheet. So please.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Now already we are late. So I want to start. This is today the 9th lecture, no? So I want to start studying a little bit more symmetric and alternating groups. I think many of you may have exposition to this earlier, but still I want to repeat some of the things because I would like to use in that format. All right. So before I start, I want to give one example, which is very important example concerning the group actions. And in some sense, it is the origin. So this example is very, very important. And this is called Galois operations. Very, very. In some sense, it was there in Galois thinking, but it was not explicit. And only later people have made it explicit. And especially the reference I am saying is, if you see 1870, that is Jordan. See, he wrote the first ever book written on Galois theory. He wrote this book particularly to understand and give more examples of simple groups. And that is where you can find all this exposition. Unfortunately, it is written in, I don't know, either Latin or French language, but it is very, very a treasure of many things. All right, so I will be very brief in this because I cannot define almost all terms, but I think many of you would have exposition in some or the other way. But I will still keep it very simple. So let K be a field. And suppose I have a polynomial f in one variable. And let us assume it is monic. Monic means the top degree leading coefficient is 1. And assume also degree of f is n. So that means f looks like this. X power n plus n minus 1 x power n minus 1 plus a1x plus a0, where a0 to an minus 1, they are coefficients in K. And you know the problem is, there was a problem always that you might be knowing that whether are there formulas for the zeros of f. Where they lie? They will not lie in C, lie in K. So K is contained in so-called algebraic closure. This is algebraic closure. In our simple case, if you take K equal to Q, then definitely C is algebraically closed field that we know, and then you can take all the algebraic numbers there, and that will be algebraically closed field, and that is how those days the discussion was there, and it was never about finite field and so on. And the question was whether can we write zeros of f by using formulas. Formulas, what formulas? Operations in f, operations in K, and extracting the square roots, cube roots, and so on. And Lagrange, for example, was believing that it is true. And he did some work on that, which was very, very valuable. And actually, that was the time when Lagrange also proved this orbit stabilizer theorem. Anyway, so what do we do with? So first of all, zeros. Alpha in K bar is called 0 of F when f of alpha is 0. And that we know this is if and only if x minus alpha divides f, but this division is not in kh but in K bar x. That is those are the basics one learns when you do the thing. So, and because it's a polynomial of degree n, it can have maximum n zeros. So therefore, the set of zeros of f I will denote, but I have to keep track where I'm taking the zeros. So vk bar f. This is the set of all zeros, alpha 1 to alpha m in K bar, and m has to be less equal to n. Moreover, if you count them with multiplicity, then it is exactly n. But that we don't. All right, so now because I want to cut down a field, so I will write L equal to adjoin all these zeros, alpha 1 to alpha n. So this is a field containing K bar, and therefore it contains K. And moreover, this extension is a finite extension. And this L is called, therefore, this is called the minimal splitting field of the polynomial f over K. Because that is what it is matter, because all the zeros we have captured in that field. How do you understand this? That is understood like this. So it was the Galois first who defined this. So he took all automorphisms of L as K algebra automorphisms. You remember, L contains K, therefore L is K algebra. What is K algebra? K algebra means two things. It is a vector space over K, and it is also a ring. It's also a field. So ring. And this ring structure and vector space structure, they are compatible. Ring and their additive groups are same. See, vector space needs an additive group. Ring also need additive, field also ring additive group. So those additive groups are same. That means addition in the vector space and addition in the field is same. And the multiplication in the ring and scalar multiplication in the vector space, they are compatible. That means whether you multiply by a scalar first and then multiply elements in the ring, or multiply elements in the ring and multiply by the scalar first. These two operations are same. That means you can put brackets like this. So you suppose, what does that mean? Suppose I have lambda is a scalar, mu is a scalar, lambda, mu are elements in K, and xy are elements in L. Then what can I do? I multiply by lambda and x, that is a scalar multiplication. I multiply mu and y, that is a scalar multiplication. But these are elements in L, therefore I have a multiplication also. This. On the other hand, I could multiply these lambda and mu first. I get element in the field K, and then I multiply these x and y element in the ring. This is same. So such a thing, that means the structures are compatible with each other. They are not, they are connected by this. So it is easier for calculation. So, and what are the K-algebra automorphisms? They are automorphisms sigma L to L, and sigma is K linear and ring homomorphism, both together. That is the K-algebra homomorphism. And remember, under ring homomorphism, we always assume sigma of 1 goes to 1. This is an assumption. Many books they don't assume, but classically we assume. Under ring homomorphism, multiplicative identity always go to multiplicative identity. So this is that automorphism. So automorphisms as L, A, L, G are precisely sigma from L to L. Sigma is K-algebra automorphism. And obviously, this is actually subset of. So first of all, I want to say this is a group. This is a group under composition. This is in fact is a subgroup of, if we just take odd L, even odd KL. And because this L is finite extension, and then algebra it is generated by finitely many elements. Therefore, this group, it's a finite dimensional vector space. Therefore, this group is our usual linear algebra group. This is GLKV. We are talking about it always. GLKL. This is a finite group. So this group is also finite. So that is no big deal. So the group, this group is called the Galois group of L over K. Of L over K. And the whole Galois theory centers around studying this group. And that contains the answer, when do you write the zeros in term, when do they have the formulas? And actually this group is called the Galois group of F because we started with a polynomial. So this is the Galois group of the polynomial. Gal F over K. And in between you prove a basic theorem that it doesn't depend on the splitting field and this and that we are not going to bother about that. So this is the Galois group, it's automorphisms. And what do this group do? It is obvious that this group G, L, Gal, K, F operates on the zero set. Well, whether I write K bar or L, it is the same because all the zeros are in K, L. So this is also same thing as V, L, F. And this is a finite set. This is a finite set of cardinality less equal to degree. F, which is N. And one need to understand this action or operation map. What is the operation map? It's obvious. It's a very natural operation map. So to give an operation map, you think like this: Galois F cross VLF. I need a map from here to here. This is the operation map. Or it will give you a homomorphism from Gal KF to the permutations on this set. So what is this map? Take any sigma, automorphism, K-algebra automorphism of L over K, and take any alpha, which is a 0 of F. So F alpha is 0. And where can you map it? Map it to sigma alpha. And now you have to check sigma alpha is indeed a 0 again, but that is very easy. Just apply sigma to this equation, f alpha. This is 0 because sigma of 0 is 0. On the other hand, this sigma respects addition, it's k-linear, and it also respects the multiplication sum. So therefore, this is same thing as sigma of f alpha. So therefore, f alpha is also, no, this is, I've written the same. This is f of sigma alpha. So therefore, the sigma alpha is a 0 of f. So that is indeed an element here. And obviously, we have to check condition 1 and 2 of the group operation. So that means if sigma is identity, this is same. Sigma is identity, so sigma alpha is alpha. When you take sigma and tau under composition, it's the same. So it is indeed an operation. Little things to be checked, but that by now you know it. On its equivalently, this theta map is a group homomorphism from this to this. All right, now. So first of all, how many elements this group has? That will, but anyway, so how many orbits? And that is where the Jordan proved very important observation. So this is Jordan. It says this operation, the above operation, is transitive if and only if the polynomial f is irreducible over K. I am not going to prove this. You would have proved in your, those who have studied in your basic course on field theory, Galois theory, they might prove it. Otherwise, you can also learn in, I don't know which AFS, 2 or 3. So it is transitive. And transitive, and this operation is faithful. And therefore, you can realize this Galois group as a subgroup of the symmetric group. And this symmetric group is finite. And because it is transitive, and in this case, actually the cardinality of VLF equal to the degree of F. So this is then Sn. And this set is therefore permutations on the set 1 to n. So more than that, I will not say anything now. This is the Galois operation on the set 1 to n. And then one studied all the theorems in Galois theory, what you have learned, that we can study by using this operation. Much more elegant today. All right, so that was I just wanted to show one example. I will come back to the operation of Sn on the polynomial algebra also, but that little while later, and its connection with this group. All right, now I want to do formally permutation groups. So that is what I gave the title, permutation groups and alternating groups. All right, so want to study more carefully if X is a finite set. Actually, finite is not necessary, but let us assume finite set. And we want to study this group S of X. This is called a symmetric group. On X. Or it is also called a permutation group. And we are denoting the elements like sigma, x to x, bijective map. And we know the cardinality of this Sx is precisely n factorial. And what I am interested in now, collecting some basic facts about this group, like how do you calculate the orders, for example, how do you calculate the orbits, what orbits have to do with the canonical decomposition of the permutations and things like that. That is what I want to collect today, many basic properties, so that we can use them later. All right, so where do I start? So first of all, we are writing sigma, we are writing like this. And by the way, I can assume because this S is X is a finite set, and if the cardinality of X is n, this is cardinality of X, n is cardinality of X. Then this, there is a bijective map from X to 1 to n. And this will give you bijective maps from Sx to S of 1 to n. This is, we are abbreviating as S suffix. This is bijective map. This bijective map came from here. So that is, what is the bijective map? Sigma here. If you call this map as F, so and you want a map from 1 to n to 1, so that is F sigma F inverse. So this will be a map from 1 to n to 1 to n, and if the sigma is bijective, this is also bijective. And not only that, this is actually a group homomorphism. So the group structure here is the composition, here is also composition. So that is, you can check, this is a group homomorphism. Group isomorphism actually, isomorphism of groups. Group isomorphism. So therefore, without loss, we can assume X is a finite set 1 to n. All right, another thing is, for a fixed element sigma, see, I want to, if I want to compute, for example, something about sigma, for example, its order, all sigmas will have finite order because the group is a finite group. So how do you compute, for example, if I give you a permutation, how do you compute the order? So I was saying that sigma we will write like this. Sigma is now bijection from 1 to n to 1 to n. So write in the upper row 1, 2, etc. n, and below you write the images sigma 1, sigma 2, and sigma n. That is how the permutations are denoted. So now, given a sigma in Sn, I want to also define what is the support of sigma. That is, and the fixed sigma, First of all, this Sn, all the discussion will become very, very simple if you note that the group Sn operates on the set 1 to n in a canonical. How does it operate? It's clear. So if you take Sn cross 1 to n to 1 to n, this is operation map. What is it? Sigma comma I, you map it to sigma evaluated at I. Evaluation. There cannot be any canonical map other than better than this. Or equivalently, you have to give what is the group homomorphism from Sn to Sn, like theta map. Sometimes on the iPad, I have a problem in writing correctly. So this is the operation map, theta, namely any permutation, sigma. Where did it go? Theta sigma. What is theta sigma? theta of sigma. That should be, what is this map corresponding to this action? Can somebody tell me? Hello?
Sigma evaluated at I mean sigma equals to sigma.
Equal to sigma. Very good. So it's identity map. This is very nice map, identity map. It's canonical. All right. So now what I was saying, suppose I have a fixed sigma, then support of sigma, fix of sigma is clear what it is. That is all those i's in 1 to n. So let me abbreviate this set 1 to n also by in. That is just a definition here locally. So that is I in 1 to in such that sigma of I is I. So those are the fixed elements of sigma. And support is in minus sigma, in minus 6 points. So definitely elements in the support are moved by sigma. And they are the matters, they are the one which matters us to study sigma. Because other elements are fixed. Okay, how do I put this more formally? So sigma is fixed, element in Sn. So look at the group. So if sigma, if you take the cyclic group generated by sigma, which is a subgroup of Sn, and this group is operating. So this H sigma operating on in naturally, canonically again. It is the restriction of this operation. Because what are the elements of H sigma? They are just the powers of sigma. That is identity element, sigma, sigma square, and somewhere it has to become identity. So just 1 minus 1 before that, sigma m minus 1. This is that subgroup. This is a subgroup generated by sigma in Sn, where this m equal to order of sigma. That is how you study subgroups, cyclic subgroups of a group. This group is operating canonically, therefore we have orbits. So H sigma orbits, just not to get confused between Sn orbits and these orbits. So H sigma orbits are, which are the orbits? Let us list them. So I will list the orbits name as, what can I do? So X, suppose there are orbits X1, XR. These are the orbits of H orbits of H sigma. So it's under, I have written that. These are the orbits. And some of them may be the fixed points. So what will the class equation will tell you? Class equation, can somebody tell me what is the class equation for this action now? Hello? Who can tell me the class equation for this action? Cardinality of the set, that where the group is operating, that equal to, that set is broken into these orbits. And some of them may be the fixed points, and the other orbits will have more than one element. Now, doesn't that mean that cardinality of in, which we know it is n, that is equal to cardinalities of x1 plus cardinalities of xr, and some of them may be single orbits. So I improve the notation and say these are the orbits which are not singleton along with this fixed sigma. Yes. Now sigma is in upper. So plus cardinality of the fixed sigma. So remember here we have taken the orbits bigger equal to 2 cardinality, and then these are the cardinalities collected together of the single. So what matters for studying sigma is these orbits. All right, now these orbits will tell you the following. This is very important observation, so I will highlight here. So note that so if you take any orbit, let us say x1, and list the elements in x1. So I am going to list them in an increasing order because I already have order. I have already chosen the set to be 1 to n, so I can utilize that order. So I will start using it as this is starting with I1 less than I2 and so on, and it will have some cardinality. So less than I nu 1. So cardinality of x1 I am assuming to be nu 1 and so on. So similarly x2, similarly xr. I write them in increasing order. There are new 1 elements and so on. So similarly dot 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 xr we are writing it as, now I cannot use the letters. So again, how many elements? So another possibility to write the double index here, but I don't want to do that. So A1, AI1, no. Let me write it J. J1 less than J2 and so on, going up to J suffix nu R. And the other orbits are singleton. So they are singleton elements. So fix sigma. These are some A, B, C, and so on. This is how we are broken. So this means the following. See, this is orbit means what? And I have chosen the single element. So this under sigma, this I1 has to go somewhere, one among them itself, because it's orbit. So this will go to somebody. So if I don't use this, and if I want to erase this order, and just put the commas, and just assume that this I1 is the minimum in among all these guys. So this has to go to somebody. So I call it I2. Similarly, I2 has to go to somebody. So I2 will be minimum among the remaining guys. So I2, this I2 will go to I3 and so on. And this I nu 1, therefore will go to I1. So it will look like this. Sigma restricted to this set x1, it will look like this. I1, I2, etc. I nu 1. This is called a cycle. Cycle of length nu 1. When nu 1 equal to 2, those are called transpositions. So let us see one example first, and then we will get, and then you do it the same thing for the others. So what ultimately I want to prove is this will lead to canonical cycle decomposition of sigma. It will be look like this: sigma equal to sigma 1, sigma r, where each sigma is a cycle. So these will correspond to the orbits, non-trivial orbits, orbits of sigma. Non-trivial means the cardinalities are not singleton. Because if the cardinality is singleton, that is fixed, so that is not playing a role for as far as this the sigma we started with. So let me give one example and then we will see how do we calculate the order, this canonical decomposition. So I am going to give a very long permutation, sigma. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have given up to 20. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Now, unfortunately, I don't have much place here, but hopefully it is done. So where do one go? 17. 2 goes to 3. 3 goes to 11. 4 goes to 5. 5 goes to 4. 6 goes to 2. 7 goes to 19, 8 goes to 12, 9 goes to 9, 10 goes to 15, 11 goes to 7, 12 goes to 1, 13 goes to 10, 14 goes to 18, 15 goes to 20, 16 goes to 14, 17 goes to 8, 18 goes to 16, and 19 goes to 6, and 20 goes to 13. So first of all, there are no commas put in the permutations. And make sure that this is indeed a permutation. That simply means that the row we have written down, it has contained all distinct elements. Can somebody check that? 17, 3, 11, 5, 2, 19, 12, 9, 15, 7. So no number is repeated. Therefore, it is a permutation. Now, what do I say? I said take the minimum, which is not. So first of all, who is fixed? That we will remove them. So who is fixed? 9 is fixed. So forget 9. All right. Now what do I say? Take the orbits. So how do you compute the orbits? I start with the minimum possible element, that is 1. So I write 1. 1. Where do 1 go? Under sigma, it goes to 17. So I write 17. Where do 17 goes? 8. So I write that. Where do 8 go? Go to 12. Where do 12 go? 12 goes to 1. So it completes. So this is one cycle. It has 4 elements. That means orbit corresponding to this is orbit of 1, which is 1, 17, 8, 12. Now you take anybody else here, but the minimum, because we want a canonical. Of course, you can choose something else and do a mess, but I want, even if you make a mistake, you should be able to correct it, and then you have the checks. So what the minimum outside this? 2. So start with 2. So 2 goes to 3, 3 goes to 11, 11, 11, 11 goes to 7. Where do 7 go? To 19. Where do 19 go? 19 is going to 6. Where do 6 go? 6 goes to 2. So it completes. So therefore orbit of 2 is equal to this. 2, 3, 11, 7, 19, and 6. Now the next, who is left now? And who is the minimum? We didn't appear here, and who is the minimum? That is 3 is there. 4. 4. Start with 4. So 4 goes to 5. 5 goes to 4. This orbit of 5 is very orbit of 4, not 5 is also same. Orbit of 4 is 4 and 5. Now who is left? 6 already has come, 7 also has come, 8 also has come, 9 is fixed, 10 is not has come. So 10. So I start down here. Unfortunately, I have no place here. So I start down here. That is starting with 10. 10 goes to 15. Where do 15 go? 15 goes to 20. Where do 20 go? 20 goes to 13. And where do 13 goes? 13 goes to 10. So this is complete. So orbit of 13 is orbit of 10, not 13. 10, 15, 20, and 13. Now who is left? The next one. 11 is there, 10 is there, 12 is there, 13 is there, 14. 14 is left. So start with 14. 14 goes to 18. 18 goes to 16. And 16 goes to, watch out if I am making a mistake, 16 goes to 14. So this is close. So orbit of 14 equal to 3 elements, 14, 18 and 16. Now who is left? 14 is there, 15 is there, 16 is there, 17 is there, 18 is not there. So start with 18. 18 goes to 16. No, 18 was already there. So why did I? Yeah, sorry. So 18 was there already. 19 is also there. So 20. So 20 is also there. So all guys are appeared. Is that correct? Please check. Somebody should check whether all things have appeared.
Yes, sir, it is
Yes,
correct.
sir, it has appeared.
Right? So these are the orbits. How many orbits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 orbits. And the cardinality is 4 here, cardinality is 6 here, cardinality 2 here, cardinality 4, cardinality 3. So these are called, these are transpositions. And they are disjoint. See, these are disjoint. That is very important. Disjoint cycles. The advantage of disjoint is that they commute. Because the element playing here, elements appearing here and here, they are not appearing. So there, when you apply sigma, it doesn't matter. They mind their own business in the same orbit. They don't go out of that building. So they are, so this, if you, I want to name them now. So this is sigma 1. This is sigma 2. This is sigma 3. This is sigma 4. And this is sigma 5. So we got a decomposition of sigma as like this. Sigma equal to sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, sigma 4, and sigma 5. And remember, when you write this, we are taking the composition. And we are reading composition like composition of function. So for example, if I want to compute what is sigma, this sigma 1, if I want to compute, for example, I'm just giving example so that you don't make a mistake in computing in a different way. Sigma 1 is what? 17. So this answer I know it is 17. So what is this? This is first I apply sigma 5 to 1, but there is no 1 in sigma 5, so it will be 1 only. The one, the numbers which don't appear in that cycle, they are fixed. So 1 is fixed here, similarly 1 is fixed here, 1 is fixed here, 1 is fixed here. So only it will apply sigma. So this is equal to sigma 1 of 1, which is 17. So the answer is correct. And similarly other. So we are making the composition from right to left. So same. So if you have two sets, remember this, x to y to z. How do you compose maps? If it is G and this is F, we are writing F first and G later. This. So you apply first F, then apply G later. See, some books will write the other way, but I am adopting this. So that is, so therefore, we have decomposed this sigma into 5 pieces, and each one of them is a cycle. They are cycles, disjoint, and therefore it is enough. They commute with each other. Therefore, if I want to compute the order, see what is the formula, in general formula in a group. If you have an element G, which is a product of many elements, then how do you compute the order of G? So I will write down the formula and tell me whether you know it or not. Order of sigma is therefore LCM of order of sigma 1, order of sigma 2, and so on, order of sigma 5 in this case. And what is the order of a cycle? That is very easy. If I apply, so this order of sigma 1, if I want to compute sigma square, sigma 1 square, sigma 2 square, sigma, this is sigma 1 square, sigma 1 cube, sigma 1 4, and see when it becomes identity the first time. So let's do that. When I apply sigma 1 twice, that 1 will jump to 8. When I apply thrice, that 1 will jump to 12. And when I apply once more, that 12 will jump to 1. That means 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this should be the identity. Let us check. 1 goes to 17, 17 goes to, so here 1 goes to 17, here 17 will go to 8, here 8 will go to, did I make a mistake? 1, 2, 3, okay, it's correct. It's not sigma square. So 1 will go, no, under sigma 1, I have written something messy. So this I should write sigma. Sigma. 1 goes, where do 1 go? 1 goes to 17. Then 17 under one more sigma will go to 8. Then 8 under one more sigma will go to 12. And one more sigma will go to 1. This will go to 1. So sigma power 4 is identity first time. That you can check. 17, 18, please. It has to go 4 times. So therefore, what we know is order of sigma is, so I will write the orders next to them. Order of sigma 1 is the cardinality of this orbit. Isn't it? 4. This one, order of sigma 2 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Order of sigma 3 is 2. Order of sigma 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Order of sigma 5 is 3. So therefore, order of the product, sigma 1 to sigma 5 will be equal to LCM of order of sigma 1, sigma 2, and so on till sigma 5. And we know each one of them. So this is LCM of 4, 6, 2, 4, and 3. Now what is the LCM? What is the LCM? Can somebody answer? Are you sleeping? It's boring. Hello?
12, sir.
12. So that is the order. So, but in general, this is the formula. And this works for any sigma. That is how we have to do it. So from the canonical decomposition, you can read of the order. We can also read of the inverse. Sigma inverse also you can read of. So what will be sigma inverse? You just have to take the inverse of this. So that is sigma 1, sigma 2, whatever sigma r, if it is r cycle, product of r cycles, the inverse, and you compute the inverse in the group, and we are commutative. They are disjoint. So it doesn't, they will commute. So I will just write this sigma 1 inverse, sigma 2 inverse, etc. Sigma r inverse. And note here, we have used that orbit, the cycles are disjoint. These are disjoint. And disjointness is used for commutativity. They commute with each other. Therefore, we can also compute the inverse easily. See, you can, if you want to compute the inverse easily, you just write the reverse. So 12 goes to 8, 8 goes to 17 goes to 1. That is the inverse of sigma 1. Sigma 1 inverse in the example will be 12, no commas in the notation of the cycles, 12, 8, 17 and 1. And you can check that is indeed inverse of sigma 1. Similarly, sigma. So canonical decomposition gives everything. Now, I want to prove the following thing. I want to define first and then prove the theorem. All of you know that every permutation can be written as a product of transpositions. And this product of the transposition is not unique in general. Because you can always insert in between, right? So I want to define, first of all, what is signature of a permutation. Signature of a permutation. And in exercises, I will tell you how do we care about computing how many 3 cycles are there, how many 4 cycles are there, and how many of them are conjugate, and so on and so on. All right, but before that, I have to define what is the signature. All of you know our definition. Can somebody tell me? What is, suppose I have a permutation in Sn, what is sign of sigma?
So it evaluates to 1 when the sigma is even permutation and -1 if sigma is odd permutation.
But then you will have to pour more. What do you mean by even permutation?
So when the number of transposition in the decomposition of sigma is even.
But as I said, that number is not unique. So which number will you take? You understand what I'm saying? See, I will give you an example first. That is very important to understand. So suppose I take a transposition, 1, 2. No commas in the notation. So we have taken n equal to 3, let us say, or 4. I want little room to play around. All right. Now this one is also same as a comma. Why do I put it? That is not correct in the notation. This 3, 4 and 4th. Is it correct, this equality? Sonakshi?
Yes, sir.
It's correct, no? Now here you see, here there are 3 transpositions. Here there are only 1 transposition. So what do you, this is even or odd? So this is odd number, this is also odd number. But the numbers are not same.
Yes, sir.
So the decomposition of a permutation into transpositions It's not unique. But canonical decomposition is unique, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what is the remedy? So of course, many books will prove this, and then therefore they will have to prove more things and more confusing way. I want to define also signature in a very canonical way. All right. So,
Yes, sir.
so I will define it in the following way. So I will rub this. So I will not rub, but I will go down there. So by red. So define sigma, sign of sigma.
Sir, hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, can you define it like -1 power something, like the R, if you are decomposing sigma as, hello?
Yes.
Yes, so if you're decomposing sigma as like transpositions tau 1, tau 2 up to tau R,
Yes.
then you can define signature as -1 power R, right? Then.
No, but the minus power, yeah, but then again you will have what is R?
So it's written as R transpositions.
But here it is 1 also. R is not unique.
No, R is not unique, but this like -1 power R, it will stay.
That is correct, but you need a proof for that.
Yes, one extra proof, yeah.
That is the proof I want to. That proof will not be very canonical. If you see it, do you remember it often?
No, I just use it, yes.
The problem is that one doesn't remember that proof often because it is not very canonical. But I will tell you very canonical definition, and we will serve that purpose. That is the point. And this, yes, please.
Yeah, is it -1 raised to power sum of length of disjoint cycles?
You are almost correct, but let us clean that formula. That you are almost correct, and that is who gave this definition?
Yes, sir. This is Anuj, sir.
Anuj.
Yes, sir.
Anuj is correct. So it is -1 power n minus r, where r is the number of orbits of sigma. Now orbits, number of orbits is defined correctly. There is no confusion about number of orbits. In the above example, what is that r? R is 1, 2, 5.
5.
Above example, it is 5. And n is? N is what?
20.
No, but we have to throw away this 9, no? We have thrown away that 9 from the fixed point. So that is not playing any role. So you first remove that. So the number of non-trivial orbits. So this is, even if you put that, that should not matter anyway. So that is called the sign of sigma. That is the definition I define. Then you have to prove now what is even and what is odd. Right? So I will call a permutation to be even when sign is 1, and when it is odd, I will call it -1. But anyway, before that, I will prove a nice thing. So, first of all, so I will note that and then we'll go on. Sigma is called even. If sign of sigma is 1, and it is called odd if sign of sigma is -1. And now you are bothered about the product of sigma into transposition. Now I will show you that even permutation will be decomposed into transposition, even number of transposition. And the transposition may not be disjoint. That you saw. Transpositions are not necessarily disjoint. When you decompose, even when you decompose 1, 2, 3, it is not unique. All right. So to do this, already we know sigma is a product of transposition because each cycle I will do it. These are all cycles. So to do that, to decompose sigma into transpositions, into product of transpositions, enough to decompose cycles into product of transpositions. So therefore, I will decompose the cycles now. So m cycles. So I will take now, I'll fix, therefore we may assume sigma is a cycle. And let me write now, cycle is x1, x2, and so on, xn. This is a cycle, and I want to write this as a product of transposition. So isn't it same as, I will do it by induction if you like. So first I start with x1. And remember, in our cycles also we have arranged so that this x1 is the minimum there. Anyway, x1, x2. And then this one times x2, not, yeah, x2, x3, xn. Is this product correct? What I wrote? Let us check. So this only common guy is x2 here. So that's what we have to bother. Where do so the images of x3 till xn minus 1, they will not come, x2 will not come there. And then they are fixed here, so that will not bother us. So the only problem will come when I apply both sides on xn. So xn will go to x2 and then x2 will go to x1. So that is correct here. xn will go to x1. And therefore, and what about x1? x1 is going to x2. This is not playing a role. x1 is not appearing here. So only thing is I have to check x2. And x2 is correctly going to x3. No, xm. xm is the troublesome case because xm will get involved x2 and then x2 gets in. So this is correct. Is it clear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Once I have done, then the length of the cycle has reduced. Then I can keep doing it. So these I keep it as it is, x1, x2. And then same, x2, x3. Then it starts with x3, so on xn. Clear? This is so canonical. So therefore, when I carry on this, then I will get x1, x2, x2, x3, go on till last, that is xn minus 1, xn. And again make a verification that what we wrote is correct. So where do xn go? xn minus 1. Where do xn minus go? Where do xn minus go here? Earlier one. Where do that go? Earlier one. That earlier one. That ultimately will go to x1. So this the cycle will get complete. So decomposing cycles into transposition is very easy. And whatever number is, what is the number here? 1, 2, 1. This is m minus 1. So m cycle has decomposed into m minus 1 transpositions. And what is the sign we have defined here for m cycle? Only one orbit. So it is minus 1 power n minus 1. Now what is the, of course, when I said I can remove the orbits which have cardinality. Of course, we have already assumed that we have removed the fixed points because that is not playing a role in sigma. So we could have assumed that those fixed points are not there by removing them from the set. So actually the sign should be how much? The total number of elements are m, so it is m minus 1. And how many transposition it decompose? M minus 1. So this is the number. It will not happen like this. Anyway, so that is the sign we have defined. Now what is more important is, so when will m cycle be even in our definition? If and only if minus 1 power m minus 1 is 1. That is if and only if m minus 1 is even. Length is even. This is m minus 1 is the length of that cycle. Right? The number of elements appearing in the cycle minus 1 is the length. So that is even. Odd if and only if m minus 1 is odd. So 3 cycles. M is 3. So m minus 1 is 2. So it is even. So these are even permutations. And so on. Transpositions are odd permutations because m is 2 in that case. So therefore this case, so it is transpositions. Of course they are odd. I don't have to write that, and so on. So that is how we understand. But now what is most important theorem I want to prove. So theorem. And my time is coming up. So theorem I want to prove, or I will prove next time, is the following. The map. I am defining a map from Sn to 1, minus 1. And this is a group under multiplication. In fact, it is a unit group of the ring Z under multiplication. So this is a group of order 2. And I am defining a map sigma going to sin sigma. And I will prove that this is a group mode. From this group to this group. That means I have to prove that. So that is, if I take 2 permutations sigma and tau and compute the sign of that, that is same thing as sine of sigma times sine of tau. This is what I have to do. And remember, the orbits we have defined, this sign we have defined by using the orbits. N minus number of orbits. Or you can also write down a better formula, because if you want to count that singleton orbits, I will tell you what is the sign you have to write. Sign of sigma is product. It will be the same. Minus 1 power cardinality of the orbits minus 1. And this is running over I. I is equal to 1 to R, where x1 to xr are orbits. And allow them singleton orbits also. Because even if you allow singleton orbits, this formula will tell you that if orbit is singleton, then this minus 1 that will go away. So minus 1 power 0 that will not contribute. And also you have to note that because they are orbits, disjoint, therefore cardinality of In, which is n, which will be sum of the cardinalities of the orbits. And for simplicity, so this is for simplicity, I have done remove the orbit, but this is a formula in general. If you want to allow the singleton orbits also. And then we will prove this theorem. And not only we will prove this, I will prove that this is the only non-trivial group homomorphism from Sn to this group. So I will write the statement. Moreover, sign, this is a sign map, is the only non-trivial homomorphism. Oh, what happened? Non-trivial group homomorphism from Sn to this group plus minus 1. So that means what I'm saying, that is, if I want to know all homomorphisms, group homomorphisms from the group Sn to the group plus minus 1, there are only two of them. One is a trivial one. Everybody goes to 1. So that is, I will denote that by 1, and the other is sign. And this is very, very useful. This is very useful when you are studying quadratic reciprocity. All right. So we will continue next time. I am sorry I have exceeded the time, and also only one